Most gardeners spend $80, $120, sometimes $200 a season trying to fix dead soil. They buy bags of synthetic fertilizer. They add chemical amendments. They follow the advice on the label, and the soil keeps dying. Here's what they don't know. A farmer named Daniel Hargrove, 58 years old, from Lubbock, Texas, one of the driest, most depleted agricultural regions in the United States, turned 400 square feet of cracked, compacted, near-worthless topsoil into a producing garden in 7 days. His total material cost $2,420. He didn't use a single synthetic input. He used a system documented over 3,000 years ago, a system written down not in a farming manual, but in scripture. By minute 4 of this video, you'll understand the biological mechanism behind what he did and why modern soil science has now confirmed it works. By minute 9, you'll have exact measurements and a step-by-step installation you can begin today. By minute 14, we'll show you why the modern watering habits most gardeners follow are actively destroying their soil architecture, and how the biblical model corrects all of it for less than the cost of a fast food meal. The soil isn't broken because of neglect. It's broken because of what we've been told to pour into it. That's not a gardening problem. That's a design problem. 2 verses, written thousands of years apart, both describing the same mechanism. The first is Deuteronomy 11:11. But the land you are crossing the Jordan to take possession of is a land of mountains and valleys that drinks rain from heaven. Read that literally, not poetically, not spiritually. Drinks, present tense, active verb. The land itself is described as a living system that receives, holds, and processes water from above. This is not metaphor. This is soil hydrology. A healthy soil profile drinks. It pulls moisture downward through capillary channels built by organic matter, fungal networks, and root architecture. It stores that water at depth, below the evaporation line, and releases it slowly upward to roots when surface conditions are dry. A dead soil cannot drink. It repels. Water sheets off compacted ground, carries topsoil with it, and leaves the surface cracked within hours of drying. The land described in Deuteronomy 11:11, mountains and valleys, variable terrain, rain-fed, required a soil structure capable of absorbing and holding irregular precipitation. The biblical writers understood that distinction. They wrote it as a design standard. The second verse is Proverbs 12:11. Those who work their land will have abundant food. The Hebrew word used here, Adamah, does not simply mean dirt. It means the living ground, the cultivated, managed, biologically active layer that sustains life. The same root word from which the name Adam is taken. Working the Adamah means activating it, not poisoning it, not forcing it, activating the biology already present within it. Here is what that looks like in practice. Healthy topsoil contains between 100 million and 1 billion microbial organisms per teaspoon. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes. These organisms decompose organic material, fix nitrogen, solubilize phosphorus, and build the soil aggregates that allow water to infiltrate and be retained. When you work the Adamah, when you add organic matter, protect surface biology, and stop disrupting the fungal networks, those organisms multiply. Nitrogen availability increases, water retention improves, root penetration deepens. That is the mechanism. Not mystery, not miracle. Microbiology. Deuteronomy establishes the standard. Soil must be capable of drinking. Proverbs establishes the method. Work the living ground, not the dead mineral layer. The $2 system Daniel Hargrove used in Lubbock did both. It restored the soil's capacity to drink, and it activated the biology that had been dormant under years of compaction and chemical disruption. We'll show you exactly how, starting with the science, in the next section. In 1993, researchers at the Rodell Institute completed a 30-year farming systems trial, one of the longest-running agricultural studies in American history. Their finding was direct. Organically managed soils retain 15 to 20% more water per cubic foot than conventionally managed soils receiving synthetic fertilizer inputs, 15 to 20%. In a dry year, that margin is the difference between a harvest and a failure. The University of California, Davis published a separate field study Measuring soil aggregate stability, the structural integrity of soil particles. In plots treated with organic surface mulch versus bare, tilled ground. Mulched plots showed 40% greater aggregate stability after just one growing season. Stable aggregates create pore spaces. Pore spaces allow water infiltration. Without them, rain hits the surface and runs off within minutes. The physical mechanism is called capillary tension. Water molecules are polar. They adhere to soil particles and to each other. In a healthy soil profile with adequate organic matter, that adhesion creates a continuous column of moisture that moves upward toward roots and downward toward water tables simultaneously. The soil becomes a wick. Compacted, depleted soil breaks that column. Pore spaces collapse. The wick stops working. Surface moisture evaporates within 24 to 48 hours. Roots cannot chase water downward because the channels no longer exist. A 2012 study from Washington State University measured evaporation rates in bare soil versus soil covered with 3 inches of organic mulch. Bare soil lost 70% of its surface moisture within 48 hours under summer temperatures. Mulched soil retained 85% of that same moisture over the same period. 3 inches. That is the entire variable. Now add the archaeology, excavations across the Negev Desert in southern Israel, one of the most arid environments on Earth, uncovered an ancient farming system dating to approximately 900 BCE. These were called runoff farms or limans. Farmers carved shallow stone terraces into hillsides to redirect rainwater into planted areas. They lined field surfaces with gravel and organic debris to slow evaporation. They planted at the base of slopes where subsurface moisture accumulated naturally. Annual rainfall in the central Negev averages 3 to 4 inches per year. Using this system, ancient farmers produced wheat, barley, and grapes in conditions that modern agriculture would consider unworkable without irrigation infrastructure. They did not have drip lines. They did not have synthetic fertilizers. They had soil management. The EPA's own composting research confirms the biological side of that equation. Adding finished compost at a rate of just 1 inch per growing season increases soil organic matter by 0.1 to 0.3% annually. That number sounds small. It is not. Each 1% increase in soil organic matter allows the soil to hold an additional 20,000 gallons of water per acre. Per acre. Daniel Hargrove's 400 square feet cost him 2 board, $14. 2 pounds of finished compost from a local municipal site, free in most counties, and a bale of straw mulch purchased at a feed store. The straw alone covered his entire bed at 3 inches deep. The science behind what he did is not new. It was published in peer-reviewed journals. It was excavated from desert hillsides in Israel. It was written in Deuteronomy. The only thing that is new is that we stopped doing it. Before you spend a single dollar, do this test right now. Go to your garden bed. Pick up a handful of dry topsoil, squeeze it firmly in your palm for 5 seconds. Open your hand. If the soil holds its shape and crumbles slowly when you press it with your thumb, your soil structure is intact. You have working aggregate stability. If it falls apart instantly into loose powder, your pore structure has collapsed. Water cannot be retained. Roots cannot penetrate below 4 to 6 inches. If it stays in a hard, brick-like clump and does not crumble at all, your soil is compacted. Capillary channels are closed. Biology is suppressed. Write down what you observed. That result tells you exactly where your soil sits on the recovery scale and how quickly you will see results from this system. Now do the second test. Push a standard pencil straight down into your soil with moderate hand pressure. A pencil, not a spike, not a tool, just a pencil. In healthy soil, it should penetrate 6 inches without significant resistance. In compacted or depleted soil, it will stop at 2 to 3 inches. That resistance is called soil penetration resistance. Roots experience that same resistance. When a pencil cannot pass through, neither can a root tip. If your pencil stops before 4 inches, your root architecture is being strangled from below ground. Your plant's visible growth above soil tells you nothing about what is happening beneath it. Now you know your baseline. Here is the installation. You need 3 materials. Finished compost, available free at most municipal composting sites, Or purchase a 40-pound bag for approximately $6 to $8 at any feed or garden store. Straw mulch. One standard bale covers roughly 100 square feet at 3 inches deep and costs between $5 and $9 at a feed store. Water. Enough to wet the bed thoroughly once at installation. That is the complete material list. Total cost for a 100 square foot bed, $2 to $9 depending on whether you source your compost free or purchased. Step 1. Do not till, do not break the surface. Tilling destroys the fungal high-fall networks that are beginning to rebuild even in depleted soil. Leave the surface as it is. Step 2. Spread finished compost across the entire bed surface at exactly 1 inch deep. 1 inch, not more. Spread it evenly with a rake or your hands. This is your biological activation layer. It introduces microbial populations directly to the soil surface where organic decomposition begins. Step 3. Water the compost layer slowly and thoroughly until it is uniformly damp. Not saturated, damp. This activates microbial respiration immediately. You are waking up biology that has been dormant. Step 4. Lay straw mulch on top of the compost at 3 inches deep. Cover the entire bed surface. Pull the straw back 2 inches from the base of any existing plant stems to prevent moisture accumulation against the crown. Step 5. Water the entire bed again, slowly at ground level, not from overhead, until moisture visibly penetrates through the mulch and reaches the compost layer below. Installation is complete. Here is what to expect on the timeline. Within 24 hours, surface soil temperature under the mulch will drop by 8 to 12 degrees Fahrenheit compared to bare soil. Evaporation rate drops immediately. Moisture is being held at the surface compost interface. Within 7 days, if you pull back a corner of the mulch and examine the compost layer, you will see fungal threads, thin white filaments, beginning to spread across the compost surface. This is mycelium. It is the first visible sign of biological activation. Soil structure repair has begun. Within 30 days, repeat the pencil test. In documented field applications using this method, penetration resistance decreases by 30 to 50% within a single month. Roots that were previously stopping at 3 inches will begin reaching 6 to 8 inches. Water retention at depth will increase measurably. Your plants will show it above ground. Deeper color, firmer stems, reduced wilting during afternoon heat. The soil is not being forced. It is being restored to the condition it was designed to maintain. What Daniel Hargrove installed in Lubbock is not a single technique. It is a 3-tier system. Each tier operates independently. Together, they create a self-reinforcing cycle that modern synthetic inputs cannot replicate. Tier 1, subsurface water mechanism. The first tier operates below the surface. It is invisible. Most gardeners never think about it. It is the most important of the 3. Healthy soil holds water at depth, between 6 and 18 inches below the surface, in what soil scientists call the capillary fringe. This is the zone where water is held against gravity by the adhesive and cohesive properties of water molecules binding to soil particles. Roots in this zone do not need to be watered from above. They draw moisture laterally and upward through the capillary column. When you apply compost at the surface, microbial activity begins decomposing organic matter and releasing humic acids. Humic acids bond with mineral soil particles and create aggregates, clumps of particles with pore spaces between them. Those pore spaces reopen the capillary channels that compaction had closed. The measurement that matters. Each 1% increase in soil organic matter, achievable within 1 growing season using this method, increases the soil's water-holding capacity by approximately 20,000 gallons per acre, or roughly half a gallon per square foot. For a 400 square foot bed like Daniel's, that translates to an additional 200 gallons of water stored passively in the soil profile. 200 gallons, held without a reservoir, without a tank, without infrastructure. Timeline: capillary channel restoration begins within 7 days of compost application. Measurable improvement in subsurface moisture retention is detectable within 30 days. Full capillary fringe development in severely depleted soil takes 1 full growing season, approximately 90 to 120 days. Outcome: roots stop chasing surface moisture. They grow downward. A plant with roots at 12 inches survives a 2-week drought that kills a plant with roots at 3 inches. You water less. The plant performs more. Tier 2, surface covering. The second tier operates at the surface. It is the simplest. It costs the least. It produces the most immediate measurable result. 3 inches of straw mulch placed on the soil surface does 4 things simultaneously. It blocks direct solar radiation from heating and drying the soil. It physically prevents wind from carrying surface moisture away. It creates a humid microclimate at the soil-mulch interface where microbial and fungal populations concentrate, and it slowly decomposes from the bottom layer downward, continuously feeding organic matter into the compost layer beneath it. The Washington State University study referenced earlier measured this precisely. 3 inches of organic mulch reduced surface evaporation by 70% compared to bare soil. That single variable extends the effective moisture period after rainfall or irrigation from 24 to 48 hours in bare soil to 6 to 8 days under mulch. 6 to 8 days versus 1 to 2 days from 3 inches of straw. The measurement: maintain mulch depth at a consistent 3 inches throughout the season. As the bottom layer decomposes, which it will visibly within 30 to 45 days, add a thin, fresh layer on top to restore depth. This decomposition is not loss. It is the system feeding itself. The decomposing bottom layer is becoming the next season's compost. Timeline: evaporation reduction begins within hours of installation. Soil temperature stabilization, a 8 to 12 degree Fahrenheit reduction in peak surface temperature, is measurable within 24 hours. Microclimate establishment at the soil-mulch interface occurs within 3 to 5 days. Outcome: watering frequency is cut by half in most climates. In arid climates like Lubbock, Texas, it can be reduced by 60 to 70%. The surface tier does not just conserve water. It changes the thermal environment of the soil in ways that directly extend microbial activity into the hottest months of the summer. Tier 3, soil biology activation. The third tier is the one that makes the system permanent rather than temporary. Without it, the first 2 tiers will produce results that plateau and eventually reverse. With it, the soil improves every season without additional input. Soil biology activation means establishing and feeding the microbial and fungal populations that perform the actual work of soil building. Bacteria break down organic matter and release plant-available nitrogen. Mycorrhizal fungi extend root reach by factors of 10 to 100 times, accessing water and phosphorus that roots alone cannot reach. Protozoa consume bacteria and excrete nitrogen in plant-available form directly at the root zone. This is not supplemental. This is the primary nutrient delivery system the soil was designed to run on. The activation method is precise. Finished compost, not raw manure, not synthetic fertilizer, introduces the broadest spectrum of microbial populations into the soil profile. 1 inch of finished compost contains approximately 600 million bacterial cells per gram. Applied across a bed surface and kept moist by the mulch layer above, those populations multiply rapidly in the presence of organic food sources and stable temperature. The measurement: soil biology reaches functional density, enough microbial population to begin measurably improving soil structure, within 14 to 21 days of compost application in moderate temperatures above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. At peak biological activity, a single teaspoon of healthy activated soil contains more living organisms than there are people on Earth. Timeline: initial microbial activation within 48 to 72 hours of moist compost application. Visible fungal colonization, white mycelial threads under the mulch layer, within 7 to 10 days. Measurable nitrogen increase in the root zone within 21 to 30 days. Full biological community establishment within 1 growing season. Outcome: the soil feeds itself. Organic matter from decomposing mulch becomes food for bacteria. Bacteria feed protozoa. Protozoa excrete nitrogen. Fungi extend root access to phosphorus and water. Earthworm populations increase. Each earthworm processes approximately 1 pound of soil per day, producing castings that contain 5 times more nitrogen, 7 times more phosphorus, and 11 times more potassium than surrounding soil. The three tiers do not operate in sequence. They operate simultaneously. Tier 1 builds the water column. Tier 2 protects the surface. Tier 3 runs the biology that constructs and maintains both. This is the system the Negev farmers used. This is the system that produced harvests in 3 inches of annual rainfall. This is what 3,000 years of agricultural scripture was describing when it said to work the living ground. There is one watering habit that is more destructive to soil architecture than drought, compaction, or chemical fertilizer combined. It is the most common watering practice in the modern garden. Almost every gardener does it without knowing the damage it causes. Overhead shallow watering, daily, from a hose or sprinkler, applied for 5 to 10 minutes at the surface. It looks like responsible gardening. The soil surface is wet. The plants look hydrated. The gardener feels productive. But beneath the surface, something is being systematically destroyed. Here is the mechanism. When water is applied daily at shallow depth, wetting only the top 1 to 2 inches of soil, roots follow it. This is not metaphor. Root architecture is directionally plastic. Roots grow toward moisture gradients. If moisture is consistently available only at the surface, roots concentrate at the surface. They stop growing downward. The deep capillary channels built by Tier 1 become irrelevant because no roots are reaching them. A plant with a shallow root system is structurally dependent on the gardener. It cannot access subsurface moisture reserves. It cannot survive more than 48 to 72 hours without surface watering. It becomes, in the most literal sense, addicted to the hose. A 2008 study published in the journal Hort Science measured root depth distribution in tomato plants under 2 irrigation regimes. Plants watered daily at shallow depth developed 78% of their root mass in the top 3 inches of soil. Plants watered deeply and infrequently, every 4 to 5 days, penetrating to 8 to 10 inches, developed 65% of their root mass below 6 inches. Those deep-rooted plants produced 23% more fruit over the course of the season and showed significantly higher survival rates during a simulated 10-day drought period. Same plant, same soil, same climate, different watering behavior. 23% yield difference. The physical damage does not stop at root architecture. Daily shallow overhead watering creates a second problem at the soil surface. Water droplets falling from above impact the soil surface with enough force to break apart the soil aggregates that microbial activity work to build. This is called aggregate disruption by raindrop impact, or in scientific literature, slaking. The broken aggregates seal the surface pores. Water infiltration slows. The soil crusts. Runoff increases. Every day of overhead, shallow watering is dismantling the same aggregate structure that the 3-tier system spends weeks building. The third problem is fungal. Mycorrhizal fungi, the networks that form Tier 3 of the biblical system, require stable, consistent moisture at depth. They do not tolerate repeated wetting and drying cycles at the surface. Daily surface watering followed by rapid surface evaporation creates exactly those cycles. Fungal high-fall threads are fragile. They rupture under repeated shrink-swell stress in the topsoil layer. The network collapses. Root extension collapses with it. Proverbs 21:5 states, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." Daily surface watering feels diligent. It is haste. It is the appearance of care without the mechanism of care. The correction is simple and costs nothing. Water deeply and infrequently. Apply water slowly, at ground level, not overhead, until moisture penetrates to a depth of 8 to 10 inches. Then do not water again until the top 2 inches of soil are dry. In a properly mulched bed using the 3-tier system, that interval will be 4 to 7 days in most climates. In arid environments, it may be every 3 to 4 days. In cooler, humid climates, it may extend to 10 days or more. Each deep watering event drives moisture down into the capillary fringe, where roots are being trained to go. Each dry interval at the surface forces roots downward in search of the moisture held at depth. The root system deepens with every cycle. After 30 days of deep, infrequent watering combined with the 3-tier surface system, the pencil test will show dramatically reduced resistance. Roots that were locked at 3 inches will be found at 8, 10, sometimes 12 inches of depth. The plant is no longer dependent on the gardener for daily survival. It has become what the biblical design intended it to be, a deep-rooted system drawing from a stable underground reserve. That is not a minor improvement. That is a structural transformation, and it begins the day you stop doing what you were taught to do. Let's put exact numbers on both systems, not estimates, not ranges. Actual figures that a gardener managing a 400 square foot bed will encounter in a single growing season. The modern synthetic system first. A standard starter fertilizer application, 10-10-10 NPK granular, one of the most commonly sold products in American garden centers, costs approximately $18 to $22 for a 20-pound bag. A 400 square foot bed requires roughly 4 pounds per application. Recommended application frequency is every 4 to 6 weeks through the growing season. In a standard 5-month growing season, that is 4 to 5 applications. Total fertilizer cost, $36 to $55 per season. That fertilizer does not fix the soil. It feeds the plant directly, bypassing the soil biology entirely. The soil remains structurally depleted. The biology remains suppressed. Next season requires the same inputs at the same cost. Add a standard irrigation system. A basic drip line kit for a 400 square foot bed runs $45 to $85 installed. Timer and pressure regulator, $25 to $40. Annual replacement of emitters and connectors due to mineral buildup and UV degradation, $15 to $25 per year. First-year irrigation setup cost, $85 to $150. Add water consumption. Daily shallow watering of a 400 square foot bed at 5 to 10 minutes per cycle uses approximately 30 to 50 gallons per day. Over a 150-day growing season, that is 4,500 to 7,500 gallons. At the average American residential water rate of 0.06 per gallon, that is $27 to $45 in water costs per season. Add a standard pesticide and fungicide budget. Synthetic fertilizer-fed plants with shallow root systems show measurably higher susceptibility to pest pressure and disease. A conservative pest management budget for a conventionally managed 400 square foot bed runs $20 to $40 per season in contact sprays and systemic treatments. Total first-year cost of the modern synthetic system, $168 to $290. Total recurring annual cost from year 2 onward, $80 to $140 per season every season with no improvement in underlying soil condition. Now the biblical system. Year 1 material cost for a 400 square foot bed. Finished compost sourced free from a municipal composting facility, $0. If purchased, a 40-pound bag covers approximately 40 square feet at 1-inch depth. So 10 bags at $6 to $8 each, $60 to $80. One bale of straw mulch covers 100 square feet at 3 inches depth. So 4 bales at $5 to $9 each, $20 to $37. Total year 1 cost using free compost, $20 to $36. Total year 1 cost using purchased compost, $80 to $116. Daniel Hargrove sourced his compost free. His 400 square foot bed cost $214. 1 bale of straw purchased at a local feed store with change left over. Water consumption under the 3-tier system with deep and frequent watering, approximately 15 to 20 gallons per watering event every 4 to 7 days. Over a 150-day season, that is 22 to 37 watering events totaling 330 to 740 gallons. At the same residential water rate, that is $2 to $4.50 in water cost per season, compare that to $27 to $45 under the conventional system. The biblical system uses 85 to 90% less water and costs less than $5 to irrigate for an entire season. Year 2 costs of the biblical system drop further. The mulch layer from year 1 has partially decomposed into the compost layer below, feeding the system from within. A single refresh application of compost at half-inch depth and 1 or 2 bales of fresh straw mulch is all that is required. Year 2 material cost, $10 to $25. Water cost, $2 to $4.50. By year 3, a fully established biblical soil system is largely self-sustaining. The biological community is processing organic matter continuously. Earthworm populations have increased measurably. Soil structure has rebuilt to a depth of 12 to 18 inches. Capillary water retention is operating at full capacity. The soil is drinking, as Deuteronomy described it. Annual maintenance costs from year 3 onward, $8 to $20 in straw mulch refresh. Water cost, under $5. Fertilizer cost, $0. Pesticide cost, measurably reduced as plant immune function, which is directly tied to mycorrhizal fungal colonization, strengthens with each season. The synthetic system costs more every year and produces no improvement in the underlying asset. The soil remains as depleted in year 5 as it was in year 1. The gardener is renting fertility from a bag. The biblical system costs less every year and produces compounding improvement in the underlying asset. The soil in year 5 is categorically more productive than the soil in year 1. The gardener is building something. That is not a gardening preference. That is a financial decision. One system charges you annually for results that disappear the moment you stop paying. The other system builds permanent infrastructure in the ground beneath your feet, infrastructure that was described in Scripture, confirmed by soil science, and demonstrated in the desert farms of the ancient Negev. The $2 investment Daniel Hargrove made in Lubbock did not just revive his soil, it started a compounding process that will make his ground more productive every single year for the rest of his life. That is what working the living ground actually means. Psalm 104:14 states, "He makes grass grow for the cattle and plants for people to cultivate, bringing forth food from the earth." Not from a bag, not from a factory, from the earth. That verse is not a comfort statement. It is a design specification. The earth was built to produce. The biological machinery was already installed. The capillary channels, the fungal networks, the microbial populations, the aggregate structure, all of it was placed into the ground before the first farmer ever touched it. What we have spent the last 70 years doing is dismantling that machinery one synthetic input at a time, trading a permanent system for a temporary one, paying annually for something that was already free, pouring chemicals into ground that was designed to feed itself. Daniel Hargrove did not discover something new in Lubbock, Texas. He recovered something old. He stopped adding and started restoring. He spent 214 and stepped back. The ground did the rest. That is the most important sentence in this entire video. He stepped back, and the ground did the rest. Modern gardening culture tells you that more input equals more output. More fertilizer, more water, more intervention, more product. The biblical design operates on the opposite principle. Build the system correctly once, protect it, feed its biology, then reduce your intervention every season as the ground becomes more capable of sustaining itself. By year 3 of the 3-tier system, most gardeners report watering half as often as they did before. Pest pressure decreases. Disease incidence drops. Yield per square foot increases, not because they added more, but because they stopped subtracting from what the soil was already capable of doing. The soil beneath your feet right now, no matter how depleted, compacted, or chemically disrupted it appears, contains dormant biology waiting for the conditions that allow it to activate. The fungal spores are there. The bacterial populations are suppressed but present. The mineral substrate is intact. The system is not dead. It is waiting. 3 inches of straw, 1 inch of compost, deep water applied slowly, then patience. That is the entire protocol. It costs less than a fast food meal. It was written down 3,000 years before the first bag of synthetic fertilizer was manufactured. And it works, measurably, consistently, and permanently, in a way that no product on a garden center shelf has ever replicated. The earth was designed to produce food from within itself. Your only job is to stop interfering with that process and start supporting it. If this system makes sense to you, if the biology, the scripture, and the field results align with what you have observed in your own garden, subscribe to this channel. Every video here applies the same framework, ancient design principles validated by modern science, translated into exact measurements and practical steps you can execute today. Leave a comment below and tell me your soil type and your location. Clay, sand, silt, loam, desert, humid, temperate, coastal. The community here will help you adapt the 3-tier system to your specific conditions. Every soil responds. The timeline varies. The outcome does not. And if you know another gardener spending $100, $150, $200 a season on synthetic inputs that are degrading their soil year after year. Share this video with them, not to argue, not to convince, just to show them the numbers and let the science speak. The ground was built to sustain life. It still knows how. Give it the conditions to remember.